Commander Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The year was 2387, and humanity had spread across 17 star systems like seeds in the cosmic wind. Earth remained the heart of it all, home to 12 billion people and the center of the Terran Federation. The morning started like any other. Ships moved between the planets, carrying trade goods and passengers. Children played in the orbital parks while their parents worked in the great factories that floated in space. Nobody knew that this peaceful morning would be the last one they would ever see. The first alarm came at 800 hours. Lee Dae-ho was drinking his morning coffee when Lieutenant Park Soo-min rushed to his console. Her face was pale and her hands shook as she spoke. "Commander, we are getting strange signals from the outer colonies," she said. "The messages are breaking up, but I think they are asking for help." Lee Dae-ho put down his coffee cup and walked to the communication center. The sounds coming from the speakers made his blood run cold, screaming voices mixed with static and the horrible sounds of destruction. Then the signals stopped one by one until only empty silence remained. "Get me Admiral Kim Jae-sung," Lee Dae-ho ordered. "Tell him we need to send ships to check on the colonies right away." Captain Park Mina received the orders 2 hours later. She commanded the battlecruiser Incheon, one of the most powerful ships in the human fleet. Her crew of 300 was the best in the service, trained for any kind of battle or emergency, but nothing could have prepared them for what they would find. The journey to the Kepler 442 system took 6 days. Park Mina spent the time studying the colony files. 3 million people had lived there, farming the rich soil and mining the deep caves. It was supposed to be one of humanity's greatest success stories, a world where families could build new lives far from Earth's crowded cities. When the Incheon dropped out of hyperspace, the crew stared in horror at what remained. The planet. Below was a ball of ash and melted glass. Huge craters covered the surface like the marks of giant fists. The orbital stations that once welcomed ships were nothing but floating metal and debris. "Send down a probe," Park Mina ordered. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt sick. "I want to know what happened here." The probe's cameras showed empty cities where the buildings had been turned to dust. Roads led to nowhere. Parks where children once played were now fields of black glass. But the most frightening sight was the tall metal towers that stood among the ruins. They were not human-made. The towers pulsed with strange lights and hummed with alien power. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Yu Sung-ho, "I am reading energy. Patterns I have never seen before. These towers, they are still active. Whatever built them is still here." Before Park Mina could respond, the space around them began to change. Ships appeared from nowhere, materializing like ghosts made solid. They were enormous, each one the size of a city. Their hulls were black as space itself, and they moved without making any sound. "Battle stations," Park Mina shouted. "All weapons, ready." The alien ships did not wait. Beams of pure energy lanced out, cutting through space itself. The Incheon's shields held for a few seconds, then failed. The ship shook as alien weapons tore into its hull. Sparks flew from damaged systems, and the lights flickered. "We cannot fight them," Yu Sung-ho called out. "Their weapons are too strong, we have to run." Park Mina hated to retreat, but she knew he was right. "Jump drive now, get us out of here." The Incheon escaped just as more alien ships arrived. In the safety of hyperspace, Park Mina sent her report back to Earth. The message was simple and terrifying. The colonies were gone. Humanity was under attack by something they had never seen before. Admiral Kim Jae-sung read the report in his office on Mars Station. He was an old soldier who had fought pirates and rebels, but this was different. This was war against an enemy that could destroy entire worlds. He immediately called together his best officers. "The aliens call themselves the Vorthak Empire," said Intelligence Officer Colonel Baek Sun-hee. She had studied the few transmissions they had captured. "They are not like us. They are made of living metal and crystal. They think all organic life is a disease that must be removed from the galaxy." "How many ships do they have?" asked General Han Min-seok. "Unknown, but our scouts report fleets of thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Each ship is more advanced than our best technology. They can appear and disappear at will. Their weapons cut through our shields like they are not even there. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had spread across the stars thinking they were alone. Now they had found they were not alone at all. Something, ancient and powerful, had been watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Over the following weeks, more colonies went dark. The Vorthak moved steadily inward, destroying everything in their path. They did not seem interested in conquest or negotiation. They simply wiped out all human life wherever they found it. Admiral Kim gathered every ship he could find at the outer defense line. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and even armed merchant vessels joined the desperate fleet. They would make their stand at the Centauri system, the last barrier before the inner colonies. The battle was brief and one-sided. Human courage meant nothing against Vorthak technology. Ships that had taken years to build were vaporized in seconds. Brave pilots flew their fighters into certain death, hoping to slow the alien advance even a little. Kim watched his fleet die around him. Good officers and loyal crew members disappeared in bursts of alien fire. When only a few ships remained, he gave the order to retreat. There was no shame in falling back when facing impossible odds. As the surviving ships limped back toward Earth, long-range sensors detected the main Vorthak fleet approaching. It was larger than anyone had imagined. Thousands upon thousands of alien ships moved through space like a dark tide, swallowing star systems as they came. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin worked frantically in her laboratory on Earth, studying the few pieces of alien technology they had recovered. What she found made her hands shake. The Vorthak were not just destroyers. They absorbed the knowledge of every species they conquered. Each victory made them smarter and stronger. "We have perhaps 6 months," she reported to the Defense Council. "Maybe less. When they reach Earth, it will be the final battle." Commander Lee Dae-ho looked out at the stars one more time. Soon those peaceful lights would be blocked by alien ships. Earth's children would face an enemy that had conquered 1,000,000 worlds. But humanity would not go quietly into the dark. They would fight with everything they had, even if it meant dying alongside their homeworld. The stars themselves seemed to cower as the Vorthak fleet approached. But on Earth, 12 billion people prepared for war. They would show these aliens what it meant to face humanity when their backs were against the wall. The Sol system became a fortress of desperate hope. Every ship that could fly was pressed into service. Ancient cargo haulers had weapons bolted to their hulls. Luxury yachts carried missile pods. Even the tourist ships that once took families to see the rings of Saturn now bristled with guns. Fleet Admiral Cho Hyun-woo stood in the command center on Luna Base, watching the defensive preparations. Massive gun platforms floated between the planets like metal islands. The asteroid belt had been turned into a maze of hidden weapons and fighter bases. If the Vorthak wanted Earth, they would have to fight for every mile of space. "How many ships do we have?" asked General Han Min-seok as he joined Cho at the tactical display. 4,012, Cho replied. "But half of them are civilian vessels with basic weapons. Against what we saw at Centauri, they will not last long." Dr. Yoon Soo-jin worked in her underground laboratory, studying pieces of Vorthak technology recovered from the outer battles. What she discovered made her feel sick with fear. The aliens did not just kill their enemies. They absorbed their knowledge, their memories, their very thoughts. Every human world they destroyed made them smarter. "They learn from us," she explained, to the Defense Council. "Every battle makes them better at fighting us. They know our tactics now, our weapons, even how we think." Colonel Lim Yu-jin commanded the fighter wings from her base hidden in the asteroid belt. Thousands of young pilots waited for the final battle, knowing most of them would not survive. But they were ready to die for Earth. In the pilot briefing rooms, men and women from every nation and colony spoke of their families, their hopes, their determination to make the aliens pay for every mile. Captain Song Ji-ye oversaw the ground-based particle cannons that ringed Earth itself. These massive weapons could crack moons in half, but nobody knew if they could penetrate Vorthak shields. The cannon crews practiced day and night, preparing for the moment when alien ships would fill the sky above their homes. The Vorthak fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning. Long-range sensors detected them first, massive shapes emerging from hyperspace, at the edge of the system. The alien motherships were like dark mountains floating in space, each one large enough to hold 1,000,000 warriors. Admiral Kim Jae-sung, commanding the outer defensive line, watched the enemy fleet deploy. There were so many ships that they blocked out entire sections of stars. The smaller Vorthak vessels were each the size of human dreadnoughts. The larger ones defied imagination. All ships, battle stations. Kim broadcast to the human fleet. "This is for Earth. This is for our children. Make every shot count." The battle began at the orbit of Neptune. Human ships charged forward in desperate attack formations, while Vorthak vessels advanced with cold precision. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a new sun being born. Captain Park Mina, commanding the rebuilt battleship Seoul, led her squadron into the alien formation. Her guns fired continuously, sending streams of energy and metal into the enemy ranks. But the Vorthak weapons were beyond human understanding. They did not just destroy ships. They unmade them, turning metal and flesh into nothing at all. The human fleet fought with courage that amazed even their enemies. Damaged ships rammed alien vessels rather than retreat. Fighter pilots flew their craft into Vorthak weapon ports. Captain Ryu Jawan, commanding a small destroyer, used his ship as a guided missile to take out an alien cruiser twice his size. But bravery could not overcome such technological superiority. Human shields failed under alien fire. Human weapons barely scratched enemy hulls. Ships that had taken decades to build vanished in seconds under the strange energy beams that bent space itself. Admiral Kim watched his fleet die around him. The brave crews of 100 worlds fought to their last breath, but it was not enough. When only a few dozen ships remained, he gave the order to fall back to the inner system. "All surviving vessels, retreat to Mars orbital defense line," he broadcast. "We will make them pay for every planet." The Vorthak pressed their attack without mercy. Their ships moved through space like hunters stalking wounded prey. At Mars, the human fleet made another stand. The orbital defense platforms opened fire with everything they had, filling space with energy and explosions. General Han Min-seok coordinated the defense from his command bunker on Mars. He watched. The battle displays as red dots representing human ships disappeared one by one. The Vorthak seemed unstoppable, their dark vessels advancing through the firestorm without slowing. "Sir," called Lieutenant Commander Shin Woo-jin from his console, "the aliens are breaking through the Mars line. They will reach Earth in 18 hours. Han closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of his wife and children in the evacuation shelters on Earth. Then he opened them and turned to his staff. "Signal Admiral Cho. Tell him to activate the Omega Protocol." Admiral Cho received the message. On Luna base as Vorthak ships entered Earth's orbital space. The enemy fleet filled the sky, thousands of alien vessels moving toward humanity's homeworld. The time for desperate measures had come. "Begin final evacuation of all personnel," Cho ordered. "Then prepare the quantum bombs." The Omega Protocol was humanity's last gambit. Scientists had hidden quantum bombs throughout the system, devices powerful enough to create an artificial black hole. The plan was simple and terrible. If Earth could not be saved, then the Vorthak fleet would die with it. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin supervised the bomb activation from her bunker deep beneath Earth's surface. The quantum devices were spread from Mercury to Jupiter, each one containing enough destructive power to tear reality apart. When they detonated together, they would create a space-time collapse that nothing could escape. "All bombs are ready," she reported to Admiral Cho. "Once I activate them, we will have 10 minutes before the collapse begins." Captain Song Ji-hee fired her ground-based cannons at the Vorthak ships descending toward Earth. The massive weapons sent pillars of energy into the sky, but the alien vessels seemed to absorb the attacks without damage. Enemy landing craft began, dropping through the atmosphere, heading for the great cities where billions of people waited in shelters. "Do it," Admiral Cho commanded. "For humanity." Dr. Yoon pressed the activation button. Across the solar system, quantum bombs began their final countdown. Space itself started to ripple and bend as the devices prepared to tear holes in reality. The Vorthak seemed to sense what was happening. Their ships tried to retreat, but it was too late. The quantum collapse began at the outer edge of the system and raced inward faster than light itself. Stars went out as space-time folded in on itself. Admiral Cho stood on Luna Base and watched Earth die. The blue world that had given birth to humanity vanished into a swirl of twisted reality. The Vorthak fleet, caught in the same collapse, was torn apart by forces beyond imagination. In the final seconds, a few thousand humans aboard heavily shielded ships managed to escape through quantum tunnels created by the detonation. They were scattered across empty space, the last survivors of 12 billion souls. Earth was gone. The Vorthak main fleet was destroyed. But humanity endured, carrying within them the burning desire for revenge against the aliens who had taken everything they loved. 3 years had passed since Earth died in fire and twisted space. The survivors floated in the dark between stars, no longer the proud children of a living world, but scattered refugees hiding from their destroyers. Commander Kang Dongmin stood in the observation deck of Haven Station, a hollowed-out asteroid in the Tau Ceti system. Outside the thick windows, empty space stretched forever. Inside, 43,000 people lived in cramped tunnels and recycled air. They were among the largest groups of human survivors, but even so, they felt very small in the vast galaxy. Another ship went dark yesterday, reported Lieutenant Nam Hyejin as she approached Kang with her daily briefing. The colony ship Mokpo stopped responding to our calls. That makes 12 ships we have lost contact with this month. Kang nodded sadly. Some survivor ships simply broke down from lack of supplies. Others were found by Vorthak patrol fleets and destroyed. A few gave up hope entirely and chose to drift into dead space rather than keep fighting. In the engineering sections of Haven Station, people worked constantly to keep their small world alive. Chief Engineer Park Jin-woo led teams that fixed broken life support systems with spare parts from destroyed ships. Every day was a battle against the cold vacuum that wanted to kill them all. "We need more power cells," Park reported to Kang during their weekly meeting. "The reactor is getting old, and we cannot fix it forever. Maybe 6 months before it fails completely." Lieutenant Colonel Bayek Sun-hee worked in the intelligence center, studying every piece of Vorthak technology they had recovered. Her small team spent countless hours trying to understand how the aliens built their weapons and ships. After 3 years, she finally made a breakthrough. "Commander, you need to see this," Sun-hee called to Kang one morning. She led him to her laboratory where screens showed alien symbols and energy patterns. "I have been analyzing their communication signals. The Vorthak are not just conquerors. They are part of something much bigger." The screens showed a map of the galaxy with red zones marking Vorthak territory, but the map extended beyond their galaxy to others. Millions of star systems all marked in the same threatening red. "They have been doing this for millions of years," Sun-hee explained. "They move from galaxy to galaxy, killing every living thing they find. We are not their first victims. We are just the latest." But Sun-hee had found something else in the alien signals. A weakness. The Vorthak were made of living metal and crystal, but their minds were connected in a network. If that network could be disrupted, entire fleets would fall into chaos. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a complex diagram. "Their ships talk to each other using quantum frequencies, but there are specific wavelengths that hurt them. If we could build weapons that use these frequencies, we might actually be able to fight back." Captain Ryu Jae-hwan commanded one of the few military ships that survived Earth's destruction. His stealth vessel Busan was small and fast, perfect for hit-and-run attacks on isolated Vorthak outposts. Using Sun-hee's research, they began testing new weapons that could penetrate alien shields. Their first successful attack was on a Vorthak mining station in an empty star system. The quantum disruptors that Sun-hee had designed tore through the alien shields like they were made of paper. For the first time since Earth's death, humans had actually hurt their enemies. "It works," Ryu reported back to Haven Station. "The new weapons really work. We destroyed 3 alien ships and captured their data cores." Word of the victory spread through the survivor fleets. For years they had felt helpless against the Vorthak technology, Now they had hope again. Small teams began building more quantum disruptors using materials salvaged from wrecked ships. Commander Kang used quantum communicators to contact other survivor groups scattered across dozens of star systems. Slowly, they began to work together again. Captain Lee Myung-soo commanded a group hiding in the Vega system. Major Song Uni led survivors who had found shelter in an ancient space station orbiting a dead star. "We have maybe 50,000 people, total," Kang told his officers during a strategy meeting. "The Vorthak have fleets of millions, but we have something they do not understand." "What is that?" asked Lieutenant Colonel Baek Sun-hee. "We refuse to give up," Kang replied. As human raids became more successful, they discovered they were not alone. Ancient ruins on dead worlds told stories of other species that had fought the Vorthak long ago. Some of these ruins contained more than history. They held weapons and technologies left behind by races that chose to fight rather than surrender. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin, who had survived Earth's destruction aboard a research vessel, led teams to explore these ruins. On a planet that had been dead for 10,000 years, she found a message carved in metal that would never decay. "To those who come after us," the message read in symbols that their computers could translate. "We are the Kelthani, the metal. Plague has come to our worlds as it came to yours. We failed to stop them, but we leave you our knowledge. Use it to succeed where we could not." The Kelthani ruins contained plans for weapons that could disrupt Vorthak networks on a massive scale. But more importantly, they contained coordinates for other systems where organic life still fought against the aliens. "There are others, Doctor," Yoon reported to the assembled commanders. "Deep in the galaxy's center, other species are still fighting. We are not the last ones after all." Captain Ryu volunteered to lead an expedition to make contact with these other survivors. It would be a dangerous journey across half the galaxy through Vorthak-controlled space. But if they could find allies, humanity might have a chance. "We will take 12 ships," Ryu announced. "Fast vessels with good stealth systems. The journey will take at least a year, maybe 2. Some of us probably will not make it back." Hundreds of volunteers stepped forward for the mission. They were tired of hiding, tired of running, tired of watching their people slowly die in the dark between stars. It was time to fight back. The expedition left Haven Station on a cold morning when the distant sun cast long shadows through the asteroid tunnels. Families gathered to say goodbye to loved ones who might never return. Children who had never seen. Earth waved to parents heading into the unknown. Commander Kang watched the small fleet disappear into hyperspace, carrying humanity's hopes with them. In the months that followed, the remaining survivors would wait and prepare. They built more weapons, trained more fighters, and kept the flame of revenge burning bright in their hearts. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Vorthak Empire continued its ancient work of destruction, but they had made one mistake. They had left humans alive, and humans, even scattered and broken, had a dangerous habit of refusing to stay defeated. Captain Ryu Jae-hwan's expedition had been traveling for 18 months when they finally reached the coordinates found in the ancient Kelthani ruins. The journey through Vorthak space had cost them dearly. 4 ships had been destroyed by alien patrols and 2 more were so damaged they could barely fly. The remaining 6 ships dropped out of hyperspace in what appeared to be an empty region near the galaxy's center. But their sensors quickly detected something impossible. Hidden in a massive nebula were thousands of ships from dozens of different alien species. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves," came a transmission in heavily accented but understandable human language. "This is a protected zone of the Remnant Alliance." Commander Kang Dong-min, who had insisted on leading the expedition personally, responded carefully. "This is Commander Kang of the human survivors. We received your coordinates from ruins left by the Kelthani. We seek alliance against the Vorthak Empire." There was a long silence. Then a new voice spoke, deeper, and with strange echoes that suggested the speaker was not breathing air. "Humans, we have heard of your species. You are the ones who destroyed an entire Vorthak main fleet at the cost of your homeworld. Please follow our ships to the Council Station." The human vessels were escorted through the nebula to a massive space station unlike anything they had ever seen. Parts of it seemed to be grown rather than built, with organic curves that pulsed with soft light. Other sections were clearly mechanical, bristling with weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Elder Kethmora of the Nethians met them at the docking bay. She was tall and graceful, with blue-green skin that seemed to shimmer like water. Her people had been fighting the Vorthak for over 300 years, ever since the Metal Plague had found their ocean worlds. Many species have joined our cause, Kethmora explained as she led Kang through corridors filled with beings of every imaginable shape and size. We have learned that alone we are all weak. Together we might have a chance. They were joined by Harmonizer Velthon of the Luminians, a being of pure energy contained within a crystal shell. His voice resonated directly in their minds rather than through sound. Your species interests us humans. We have seen the tactical reports from your final battle. No organic race has ever inflicted such damage on a Vorthak main fleet. We lost everything, Kang replied bitterly. Our world, our people, our civilization. What we did was not victory. It was suicide. But it was effective suicide, Velthon observed. The Vorthak have not replaced that fleet. Their expansion in your galactic sector has stopped completely. They fear what humans might do if cornered again. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin, who had joined the expedition, worked with Alliance scientists to combine human technology with alien innovations. The results were beyond anything she had imagined. Weapons that could tear holes in space-time, shields that existed in multiple dimensions, ships that could phase through solid matter. Look at this, she showed Kang excitedly. The Luminians have energy weapons that can disrupt Vorthak networks. The Nethians have developed armor that regenerates itself. If we combine these with our quantum disruptors, we can build weapons the Vorthak have never faced before. Lieutenant Colonel Bayek Sunhee studied Alliance intelligence reports and made disturbing discoveries. The Vorthak Empire was even larger than they had thought, but more importantly, the aliens were preparing something new. Deep in their territory, massive construction projects were building weapons designed to destroy entire star systems. They call it the final cleansing, Sunhee reported to the Alliance Council. Intelligence suggests they plan to sterilize every star system in this galaxy simultaneously. No more world-by-world conquest, just total annihilation of all organic life. Elder Kethmora's skin darkened with anger. How long do we have? Based on the construction schedules we intercepted, maybe 2 years, 3 at most. The Alliance knew they could not wait any longer. For centuries they had fought a defensive war, hiding in nebulae and empty systems. Now they would have to take the fight to the Vorthak before the final cleansing could begin. General Han Min-seok, who had survived Earth's destruction commanding a small task force, began training mixed human-alien military units. Human tactical flexibility combined with alien technology and abilities created devastating fighting forces. The key is unpredictability, Han explained to his new officers during a training session. The Vorthak think in logical patterns. They expect us to do the rational thing, so we do the opposite. Captain Ryu tested the new combined tactics in a raid on the heavily defended Vorthak stronghold of Zarian Prime. His strike force included human ships with quantum disruptors, Nethian vessels with regenerating hulls, and Luminian energy beings who could possess enemy computer systems. The attack was unlike anything the Vorthak had ever faced. Human ships attacked from impossible angles while Luminian entities invaded their networks and turned their own weapons against them. Nethian vessels absorbed damage that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. Target the command nodes, Ryu ordered as his fleet tore through the Vorthak defenses. Sunhee's research shows that if we can disrupt their network controllers, the entire system will fall into chaos. The battle for Zarian Prime lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the massive Vorthak fortress was a cloud of debris, and the human-led force had lost only 3 ships. For the first time in galactic history, organic forces had achieved a crushing victory against a major Vorthak stronghold. Word of the victory spread throughout Alliance space. Species that had been hiding for centuries began to emerge from their shelters. Ancient enemy races put aside their differences to join the fight against the Metal Plague. But intelligence reports brought sobering news. The victory at Zarian Prime had gotten the Vorthak's attention. They were mobilizing their core fleets, millions of ships that had never known defeat. The final cleansing project was being accelerated. Admiral Kim Jae-sung, who had rebuilt a small but powerful fleet from Alliance resources, met with the War Council to plan their response. The assembled leaders represented dozens of species, but they all faced the same terrible choice. We cannot wait for them to complete their superweapons, Kim argued. We must strike at the heart of their empire before the core fleets can be fully deployed. That is madness, protested War Master Thexval of the Crystalline Zephyrite. The Vorthak capital is protected by 10,000 ships and planetary defense systems we cannot even imagine. Then we make it 11,000 ships, Kang replied. We take our entire fleet and hit them with everything we have. If we fail, at least we die fighting instead of waiting to be exterminated. The debate continued for hours, but eventually the Alliance leaders reached their decision. They would launch Operation Starburst, a massive assault on the Vorthak capital world of Nexus Prime. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior in Alliance space would be committed to the attack. As the meeting ended, Elder Kethmora approached Kang privately. Your species has given us something we had lost, she said. Hope. For 3 centuries we have been dying slowly. You humans have reminded us that sometimes the only way to live is to risk everything. Preparations for Starburst began immediately. Ships from across the galaxy converged on the assembly point in the void between, empty space far from any star. Engineers worked around the clock to outfit vessels with the most advanced weapons Alliance science could produce. Dr. Yoon completed work on the Psychic Amplifier Network, a series of quantum devices that could project chaotic organic thought patterns directly into Vorthak networks. It was based on her analysis of how the aliens absorbed knowledge from conquered species. If this works, she explained to the assembled fleet commanders, it will introduce random elements into their hive mind. They have never experienced confusion or fear. The psychological shock alone might cripple their ability to coordinate. As the massive Alliance fleet prepared to depart for the most desperate battle in galactic history, Kang stood once more at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere among those points of light lay the Vorthak capital, the black heart of an empire that had destroyed countless civilizations. But this time, the metal plague would face something it had never encountered before. United organic life, armed with the fury of the dispossessed and the weapons of the desperate. The stars no longer cowered in silence. They blazed with the light of defiance. The Alliance fleet assembled in the void between was the largest gathering of organic warships in galactic history. Over 100,000 vessels from 43 different species floated in perfect darkness, their running lights creating a new constellation of defiant stars. Admiral Kim Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the flagship New Seoul, watching the final preparations. Human ships formed the tactical spearhead of the assault, their crews trained in the unpredictable fighting style that had proven so effective against Vorthak forces. Final ship count, Admiral, reported Captain Song Ji-hee from her position at the tactical display. 112,437 vessels ready for combat, all weapon systems charged, all crews at battle stations. Commander Kang Dongmin commanded the human contingent from the battleship Incheon Reborn, named for the ship that had first encountered the Vorthak. His force of 8,000 vessels represented humanity's entire remaining military power, every survivor who could hold a weapon or pilot a ship. Lieutenant Colonel Baek Sun-hee delivered the final intelligence briefing to the assembled fleet commanders. Her teams had spent months studying the target, using every source of information the Alliance possessed. Nexus Prime is located in an artificial star system at the galaxy's edge, she explained, as holographic displays showed the massive alien construct. The Vorthak built it around a controlled black hole, using its energy to power their central command systems. The images showed a planet-sized biomechanical structure that pulsed with dark energy. Surrounding it were orbital defense platforms that dwarfed human cities and ship formations that stretched across millions of miles of space. The primary consciousness resides at the planet's core, Sun-hee continued. It is the supreme intelligence that coordinates the entire Vorthak Empire. If we can destroy it, their forces throughout the galaxy will fall into chaos. "How many ships are defending it?" asked Elder Kethmora. "Our estimates suggest at least 50,000 vessels, including their most advanced warships. Some of these ships are larger than our biggest stations. They are powered by controlled black holes and armed with weapons that exist in multiple dimensions." The briefing sobered even the most optimistic commanders. The Vorthak had concentrated their most powerful forces around their capital. The coming battle would decide the fate of all organic life in the galaxy. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin activated the psychic amplifier network from her position aboard the command ship. The quantum devices had been installed throughout the fleet, ready to project chaotic organic thought patterns into the enemy's hive mind network. "All amplifiers are online and synchronized," she reported. "When we reach Nexus Prime, I can introduce random elements into their collective consciousness. But I do not know how long the effect will last." The fleet began its final jump to the Nexus system. Ships vanished into hyperspace in carefully coordinated waves, following attack plans that had been rehearsed countless times. But everyone knew that no amount of planning could prepare them for what they would face. Captain Ryu Jae-won led the diversionary attacks that preceded the main assault. His fast attack squadrons struck at Vorthak industrial worlds throughout their territory, using hit-and-run tactics to confuse the enemy about the Alliance's true intentions. "Manufacturing complex destroyed," Ryu reported as his ships escaped from yet another successful raid. "That should keep some of their forces busy trying to figure out our real target." The main fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system to find horror waiting for them. The Vorthak had known they were coming. The entire system was filled with enemy ships, layer upon layer of dark vessels stretching from the outer planets to Nexus Prime itself. "By the stars," whispered Captain Park Mina from her position commanding a cruiser squadron. "There must be twice as many ships as we expected." Admiral Kim studied the tactical displays with growing concern. The enemy had deployed their forces in a perfect defensive formation, creating overlapping fields of fire that would destroy any attacking fleet. But retreat was not an option. This was their only chance. "All ships, execute Chaos Pattern Alpha," Kim ordered. "Remember your training. Be unpredictable." The human ships led the assault with tactics that defied military logic. Instead of advancing in orderly formations, they attacked from random directions using impossible maneuvers. Some ships flew directly at the enemy guns while others looped around in spirals that made no strategic sense. The Vorthak defensive systems, designed to counter logical military tactics, struggled to respond to the chaotic human assault. Their targeting computers could not predict where the erratic ships would go next. Behind the human vanguard, the Alliance fleet charged forward in a massive wave of destruction. Nethian vessels with regenerating hulls absorbed incredible damage while continuing to fight. Luminian energy beings possessed Vorthak ships and turned their weapons on their own allies. The space around Nexus Prime became a storm of energy and explosions. Ships the size of cities dueled at distances measured in millions of miles. Weapons that could crack planets fired continuously, turning the vacuum into a hell of deadly radiation. Lieutenant Colonel Lim Yoo-jin led her fighter squadrons in desperate attacks on the orbital defense platforms surrounding Nexus Prime. Her pilots, both human and alien, flew through weapon fire that could vaporize a cruiser with a single shot. "All wings, coordinate your attacks with the quantum disruption pulses," Yoo-jin commanded as her fighters dove toward the massive gun platforms. "When the shields flicker, that is our chance." The fighter assault was a suicide mission disguised as tactics. Pilots flew their small craft directly into weapons designed to destroy capital ships. Most died instantly, but their sacrifice opened gaps in the defense grid. General Han Min-seok coordinated the combined arms assault from his command ship, directing Alliance forces with the skill of a master tactician. But even his expertise was tested by the scale of the battle. "The Vorthak are adapting to our tactics," he reported to Admiral Kim. "Their formations are becoming more random, trying to match our unpredictability. We need to change our approach." Commander Kang made the decision that would determine the battle's outcome. Rather than continuing the chaotic attack patterns, he ordered all human ships to suddenly shift to perfectly coordinated formations. "All units, execute Precision Pattern Omega," he commanded. Synchronized attack on grid reference 77 Alpha. The sudden change from chaos to perfect coordination caught the Vorthak completely off guard. Their defenses, which had finally begun adapting to random attacks, were overwhelmed by the precisely timed assault. Dr. Yoon activated the psychic amplifier network at the moment of maximum confusion. The quantum devices projected organic thought patterns directly into the Vorthak hive mind, introducing concepts the silicon-based intelligence had never experienced. For the first time in millions of years, the Vorthak felt fear. The primary consciousness designed to process pure logic suddenly experienced doubt, confusion, and terror. The effect rippled through their entire fleet as ships hesitated and commanders made irrational decisions. "It is working," Yoon reported excitedly. "Their coordination is breaking down. Some ships are firing on their own allies." Admiral Kim seized the opportunity and ordered the final assault. The surviving Alliance ships, battered but unbroken, charged directly at Nexus Prime itself. They had lost over half their fleet, but they had opened a path to the Vorthak capital. The battle for the primary consciousness itself was fought on the surface of the biomechanical planet. Alliance ground forces, teleported down through gaps in the defense grid, fought through landscapes that seemed designed by nightmares. Captain Song Ji-hye led a mixed human-alien assault team through the twisted corridors of the primary consciousness facility. The walls pulsed with alien intelligence while defensive systems tried to stop the invaders with weapons that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. "Keep moving," Song shouted to her team as they fought through rooms filled with crystalline structures that hummed with malevolent power. "The core is just ahead." The primary consciousness itself was a structure the size of a city, a vast network of living metal and crystal that housed the supreme intelligence of the Vorthak Empire. As the Alliance forces broke into its central chamber, the alien mind tried one last desperate defense, but it was too late. Human explosives, enhanced with Alliance technology and guided by organic intuition, tore into the heart of the silicon intelligence. The primary consciousness died in a cascade of quantum fire, its death scream echoing across the galaxy as Vorthak fleets everywhere suddenly fell silent. The battle was won, but the cost had been terrible. Of the 100,000 ships that had attacked Nexus Prime, fewer than 20,000 survived. Entire species had sacrificed themselves to achieve this victory. As the surviving Alliance forces regrouped around the dying Nexus Prime, they watched Vorthak ships throughout the system shut down or begin firing on each other in confusion. Without their central intelligence to coordinate them, the empire that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years was collapsing. The Vorthak Empire died as it had lived, in silence and darkness. Across thousands of star systems, the alien fleet simply stopped moving. Some ships drifted powerless through space. Others turned their weapons on each other as their fragmented programming created chaos in the command networks. Fleet Admiral Kang Dongmin stood on the bridge of the Incheon Reborn, watching the enemy fleet around Nexus Prime tear itself apart. Without the primary consciousness to guide them, the Vorthak had become nothing more than metal and crystal floating in the void. "All Alliance ships, begin recovery operations," he ordered. "Search for survivors and secure any useful technology. The war is over, but our work is just beginning." The liberation began immediately. Captain Ryu Jaewon led the first ships back into human space, expecting to find empty worlds and dead colonies. Instead, they discovered something miraculous. On dozens of planets, human survivors emerged from deep caves and hidden bunkers where they had waited for 6 years. "This is incredible," Ryu reported from the surface of Kepler 442, the first world to be attacked by the Vorthak. "There are almost 50,000 people here. They have been living underground all this time waiting for rescue." Similar discoveries were made throughout former human territory. The Vorthak, focused on their systematic expansion, had never bothered to search for survivors who hid deep enough. Families who had watched their cities burn above ground had managed to keep their children alive in the darkness below. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin led the scientific effort to understand captured Vorthak technology. The silicon-based systems, when properly reprogrammed, became tools for creation rather than destruction. Terraforming projects that should have taken centuries were completed in months using alien engineering. "Look at this," she showed Admiral Kim as they toured a former Vorthak factory. "Ship. Their manufacturing systems can build anything we can imagine. We could reconstruct entire worlds with these tools." The reconstruction effort began on a scale that dwarfed even the great colonization projects of humanity's past. Using Vorthak, technology and alliance knowledge, dead worlds were brought back to life. Oceans were restored, atmospheres were cleaned, and cities rose from the ashes of war. But the greatest construction project was also the most symbolic. In the empty space where Earth had once orbited, engineers from a dozen species worked together to build something new. Not a copy of humanity's lost homeworld, but something better. New Earth was designed as a massive space station that could house billions of beings. It had oceans and forests like the old Earth, but also crystalline gardens for the Luminians and deep-water channels for the Nethians. It was built to be home for every species that had fought together against the darkness. Commander Song Ji-hye oversaw the construction from her office in the growing station's first completed section. Through her window, she could see ships from across the galaxy bringing materials and workers to the project. "The outer ring will be finished next month," reported Chief Engineer Park Jin-woo. "We will have space for 2 billion people in the initial phase. The expansion sections are already being planned." General Han Min-seok established the Galactic Defense Force with volunteers from every alliance species. The new military was different from the old human fleet. It emphasized cooperation and mutual support rather than competition between different forces. "We learned something important during the war," Han explained to the first graduating class of mixed-species officers. "Alone, any of us can be defeated. Together we are stronger than any enemy." Captain Park Mina took command of the first deep space exploration missions, leading fleets of human and alien ships to investigate the far reaches of the galaxy. They found evidence that the Vorthak Empire had extended beyond their home galaxy, suggesting that the threat to organic life was even larger than they had imagined. "Long-range sensors are detecting artificial structures in the Andromeda galaxy," Park reported during a council meeting. "The energy signatures match Vorthak technology. There may be more of them out there, but they also found cause for hope. Ancient ruins on distant worlds told stories of other organic species that had survived the Silicon Plague by fleeing to empty space between galaxies. Some of these refugees were still alive, waiting in hidden bases for the Vorthak threat to end." Lieutenant Colonel Bayek Sunhee led the intelligence efforts to contact these distant survivors. Using modified Vorthak communication systems, they sent messages across millions of light years to species that had been hiding for millennia. "We are getting responses," Sunhee reported excitedly. "There are organic civilizations in at least 12 other galaxies. They have been fighting the Vorthak for millions of years, but they thought they were alone." The galaxy began to heal. Trade routes reopened between worlds that had been isolated by war. Cultural exchanges brought together species that had never met before the alliance. Children grew up learning languages from across the stars. On New Earth, the Central Council chambers hosted representatives from over 100 different species. Humans served alongside beings of energy, crystal, water, and forms that had no names in any organic language. Elder Kethamora, now serving as the Alliance's first Secretary General, addressed the assembled delegates during the First Galactic Peace Conference. Her words were translated into thousands of languages and broadcast across known space. "For too long we have lived in fear of the darkness between stars," she said. "We hid in shadows while ancient evils consumed world after world. But we have learned that united organic life cannot be defeated. We have turned our greatest weakness into our greatest strength." Admiral Kim Jae-sung, now retired from active service, spent his final years writing the official history of the Vorthak War. His account would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. "The key was never our weapons or our ships," he wrote. "It was our refusal to accept defeat. When the enemy seemed unstoppable, we found ways to stop them. When our technology was inferior, we made up for it with determination. When they tried to break our spirits, we became stronger." 5 years after the fall of Nexus Prime, Commander Kang stood once again at an observation window, But this time he looked out from New Earth's completed central hub. The massive station stretched in all directions, its rotating rings creating artificial gravity for billions of inhabitants. Ships from across the galaxy docked at the great ports every hour, bringing trade goods, immigrants, and news from the expanding frontier. The darkness between stars no longer held terror. It held promise. Dr. Yoon, now leading the Galactic Science Institute, approached Kang with her latest report. Long-range surveys have detected something interesting in the void between galaxies, she said. Energy signatures that suggest massive construction projects. We think other organic species are building their own versions of New Earth. Through the great windows of the observation deck, the stars shone with steady light. No longer did they cower in fear of silicon plague. They blazed with the fire of life itself, protected by the warriors of Earth and their alien brothers. Signal detected from beyond the galactic rim, announced the duty officer. It appears to be a distress call from an unknown organic species. They report being under attack by a mechanical force. Kang smiled grimly. The Vorthak were gone, but the universe was vast and full of dangers. Somewhere out there, organic life was calling for help, and this time they would not be alone. Prepare a relief fleet, he ordered. All volunteers. We have work to do. The war against the darkness was over. The greater war for life itself was just beginning. But the stars no longer trembled in fear. They sang with the voices of the free, ready to carry that freedom to every corner of the universe where organic hearts still beat with hope. In the end, Earth's warriors had found their revenge not in destruction, but in creation. Not in ending life, but in spreading it. The Vorthak had sought to cleanse the galaxy of organic existence. Instead, they had taught that existence to stand together and become stronger than any force in the cosmos. The children of Earth looked up at alien suns and called them home. The galaxy was theirs now, and they would defend it with the same stubborn courage that had once saved a dying world called New Earth. The stars awaited, and humanity's warriors were ready for whatever came. Next,